Memory has a fundamental role in life, reflecting the past as the past and offering the possibility of reusing experiences, as well as helping to ensure continuity between what was and what is going to be. But what about reusing experiences from people that lived before us? How can we relate to our ancestors and use their knowledge without ever meeting them or talking to them? Some psychologists have theorized that we are born with the memories and experiences of our ancestors imprinted on our DNA. It's possible that our most basic survival instincts might come from trauma experienced by ancient relatives, like our fear of the dark. But to access our cultural heritage, we have to rely on traces left by former generations. These traces are history, symbols, and of course, traditions. It's almost 8 o'clock in the morning and we are here in a village named Abbots Bromley. We are going to witness one of the longest surviving medieval rituals in England, the horn dance. The people from Abbots Bromley have passed on this tradition from generation to generation for more than 800 years. The horn dance takes place on Wakes Monday, which followed the first Sunday after the 4th of September. After collecting the millennium-old reindeer antlers from the church, the horn carriers dance throughout the village and its surrounding farms and pubs, starting a day-long walk of about 10 miles or 16 kilometers. The group is composed of 6 deermen, a fool, a hobby horse, a young kid with a bow and arrow, another youngster with a triangle, and Maid Marian, which is played by a man. And they are escorted by music players. Traditionally, the dancers were all male, but in recent years, women have been participating. Since the beginning, the dancers are relatives from the same family, but they will often invite the public to try and dance with them, carrying the horns.
I mean, one looks at these dances and thinks how long the dance has been done, and you kind of pick up on the sense of the numinous. There's almost something that goes almost into prehistory, especially with the carbon dating of the horns. We know they're 1,000 years old, but then you think, well, maybe they could be a replacement set. So then you may be talking 2,000 years, and you're looking at something that comes from an era before anything was even written down. So we're in the presence of something mystical, I think. It's something that's probably difficult to put into words because, well, it roots the community in a proper tradition. Because obviously the dances all come from the same families, so it all comes down through the bloodlines, and I think it just roots people in the area, in the soil. This is something that is theirs, and I'm hoping that the continuity that has existed will hopefully go on into the future.
It is quite a proud feeling because anyone can come and be here, but to actually be a member and a part of it is it's quite a nice feeling, and it's because it's you're carrying on this kind of yearly streak that we do every single year without fail. And they've gone through all, even through World War I, World War II, and they've still done it all throughout, even through all of that. So it is quite a big event, and I always do look forward to it when we get closer to it. This is my 8th or 9th, so I started it when I was down here. When I was quite young, I was on the triangle. Yeah, when you grow up a little bit more, then you can move on to the bow, and then I've grown out of that now, and they have some of the other younger ones doing that. So it's quite a big thing, especially for my dad. My dad takes it quite seriously, so it's a big event for us. And it's only one day a year, so it's not much to ask for. Yeah, it's important to me, mainly because it's important to my dad, and I take all of it from my dad. But yeah, it is kind of like a father-son, mother-daughter tradition, and pass it down, and that's how it's happened. There's always some big, long family line going on. You've kind of got that feeling at the back of you saying, you've got to keep going, you can't ruin it. So yeah, we always just keep pushing it on, and it's always fun, it's never a letdown or anything. So.
Well, it's a tradition, we've always done it.
Yeah.
So we always do it. we just keep doing it.
Do you think we still have something in common with the people that did it long time before us?
Well, they were, would have been farm workers and the likes, people of the land. And one way or another, quite a lot of us are still people of the land. Well, hopefully it'll keep going because, there's every hope. There's youngsters coming into it, doing it, from the families. So hopefully it will keep going.
Yeah.
It'll keep going forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My granddad did it for very many years, about 70 plus years my granddad did it for. So massive honour.
Is that something that you feel connected with when you're doing it?
Yeah, because my hat that I wear is my granddad's hat. So when he passed away, I've worn it when I've been dancing. So it's been lovely to wear that and carry my granddad with us as well on that journey.
Amazing, yeah.
It's what starts the year off in the autumn because the year dies, and you wake it up, and then it's all this wonderful summer. And then it dies again, and you've got the horn dance, and there it is, turning the year. It's completely about celebrating life and the completion of the year.
Yeah.
For me, the harvest time is the completion of the year, not the winter. The winter is when it sort of starts again. Mm-hmm. But the end of the year is just wonderful.
The horn dance is believed to have been first created by the royal forester who organized magic rituals to ensure a plentiful catch each year, reminding us that nature is strong and that we should respect it if we want to benefit from it. At the end of their long and singular performance, the horns are returned to the church in the evening. Traditions are like collective memory. It helps remembering our values. In Abbots Bromley, the Horn Dance Festival stayed a simple and humble tradition, and that makes it precious. We can't imagine what celebrations will be in hundreds of years, but there is no doubt that some traditions, like the horn dance, will remain close to their true essence. These rituals are a reflection of our world, but also of what it was at a certain moment in time. Nowadays, many traditions are becoming more and more commercialized. By transforming them into simple games and products, we tend to lose their meaning and therefore their wisdom. But when we lose meanings, we create new ones, more in sync with our time. From 1979 to 1990, when Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister, her neoliberal policies triggered the rise of rave culture in the UK. Her promotion of free markets allowed the rich to get richer and the poor to become worse off than ever. This economic battle destroyed whole communities and pushed people in a race to the top. In the meantime, a new kind of music was rising in Britain. Characterized by a four-to-the-floor beat and high tempo, house, acid house and techno arrived from DJs in America. By using synthesizers and drum machines in their houses, DJs in Chicago and Detroit started a musical revolution. This new music, which came mostly from working-class black DJs, provided an escape for people left behind. The underground all-night parties it brought with it provided a space where people from racial and sexual minorities could dance safely and without judgment. And then there was rave. We interviewed Simone Sim Simmer, member of Spiral Tribe, one of the most iconic free party crew in the UK at that time. When raves were booming in the 90s, she was working in a sound equipment store and became a part of the movement. But what was it like back then?
For me, I was like 19 years old, 1989. Warehouse raves were a thing at that point. So people would go and take these huge warehouses, but they would charge loads and loads of money, like 25, 30 quid. It's so much happened in a short space of time. But sort of towards the end of 1989, people were starting to put on their own much smaller events in squats, abandoned warehouses also, but on a much kind of smaller scale. And there was just this incredible sort of momentum that was happening. It's like, you know, whether the planets were aligned or something, or was a certain fertile moment in history, but everything took off really, really quickly. There was the music. So there was this fresh, electronic music that was being made in people's bedrooms and kind of brought to dance floors. So all of a sudden it was accessible. You didn't have to practice the guitar for, you know, 10 years and join a band and get onto the gig circuit. You know, music was coming out really regularly with all this kind of new sampling equipment. So there was that. There was the ecstasy, there was the LSD, fused with this electronic music, fused with a youth that was fed up of going into, you know, nightclubs and paying silly amounts of money for alcohol, everything closing at 2 a.m. I don't know, there's so many things in the mix at that time. I mean, I could say politically, but to be quite honest, at that point in my personal life, I wasn't particularly political. So, I mean, a lot of people say, you know, we've just had 12 years of Margaret Thatcher, privatising everything, the miners' strikes, all that kind of thing had been in the mix. So maybe it was just a really ripe moment for kind of young people to come together and go, hey, you know what, we can do this ourselves. We don't need your permission. We don't need to have to pay your entry price into a club. We can set up our sound system. We can paint some really cool backdrops. We can bring people together. And I think the energy of that was quite magical. I mean, I know personally, growing up as a sort of teenager on the outskirts of London, I felt a bit of a misfit. So there was something about these kind of parties that felt like, oh, we're all kind of misfits coming together here. I mean, that's, you know, I mean, it's perhaps an age-old thing that happens, but I sort of found my tribe. And it was just really great energy. There was nothing was going to stop us. Why should we turn the music off at 4 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning? Why can't we go to these free open spaces and dance to music? You know, I can't speak for a whole generation. I can only speak for myself. And you know, I wasn't political, but in the process of doing this whole kind, you know, putting on these parties and realising the resistance that we were coming up against suddenly made it all political. Sort of encountering the police presence after kind of the first summer, the ridiculousness of it, you know, kind of a load of young people dancing in a field in the sunshine with a beautiful view, no neighbours to disturb, and then all of a sudden a huge swathe of police officers in full battle gear with helmets and batons and stuff. It's like, what? You know, what's going on? What is this? So it's like, oh, hang on a minute. This is control, this is authority, this is, you know, something we're not supposed to do. I mean, and I think that helped to drive the resistance as well, because the ridiculousness of it was very apparent. So I think there was a fear of, you know, some kind of youth revolution that was very obviously beginning to happen. Everyone was just jumping in their cars, coming out to the countryside, going to spot illegal parties in huge numbers. You know, it was taking hold. At that point, I guess the powers that be must have thought, uh-oh, we've got to do something about this. This is massive, because what's going to happen next week? Is this going to stop? You know, is there... And nobody knew. There was no big plan. There was no conspiracy to, you know, grow the movement. It was just happening of its own accord. It was very organic, but a threat to the establishment and a threat to the authorities to see this many people gathering freely. You know, all of a sudden you've got these swathes of young people from all denominations, all races, all parts of the country, all gathering together and respecting each other, respecting the countryside, maybe taking some drugs. However, you know, actually making these things happen without any input, if you like, to the, you know, I guess, you know, food and alcohol's being sold, nobody's paying any taxes to them, you know, I guess no one's paying entry to the plays, it was out of control in their eyes, I guess. It's something that you can never kill. It's like it's part of the human spirit to gather with your friends and celebrate life, dance in the elements, on fertile ground, with the sun, with the moon. I think it's something that cannot, I hope, cannot be, you know, blown away or killed or sort of, I think that is much stronger than anything that's trying to exterminate that, really.
The free rave movement created a community that challenged the values of capitalism. A let-down generation had finally found its expression and a way to escape the dystopian reality they were living in. At that time, the police took a clumsy approach when confronted with these drug-infused parties. But the tide began to turn when journalists infiltrated free parties and started a strong anti-rave propaganda.
Some newspapers have called acid house music a sinister and evil cult which lures young people into drug taking. The message is certainly getting across.
Do you think it's anything to do with a certain religion, do you think?
No,
is it anything like that?
No, it's more to do with a kind of a drug, isn't it?
I've just read about it in the newspapers that acid house music, I assumed it was something to do with the drug scene.
It must affect the brain in some way.
Unless it's just the music that does it.
All them lights flashing don't do you any good either, do it? I wouldn't even go in the pub where them lights are.
Oh, no,
they drive you mad, don't they?
After the second Summer of Love, the government passed the Entertainment Act, allowing fines up to £20,000 for hosting illegal raves or parties. Organizers got around this law by keeping the location of events secret until the very last minute. Ravers would wait for details to be broadcast on pirate radio stations or on the voicemail of a secret phone number. This is still how today illegal raves are organized. Several protests for a freedom to party marched through London, resulting in battles between ravers and the police. After that, the legislation gave police enhanced powers to deal with them, putting an end to the euphoria. But illegal raves never really went away. Most modern free parties, however, are as private as possible. Tonight we are going to a classic English rave, but before we had to stop in Manchester to have a proper fish and chips and ask the young people why do they love to party.
Fun,
excitement,
silliness.
Yeah,
and
memories.
You make silly little memories. You make your friends. You get like, I don't know, you get a lot of joy.
Yeah, it's how you get close to
even
people.
in COVID, when you couldn't party, like they were the memories I was looking back on. Is when you could party.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you were looking back at the drunk, silly times when you're like, oh, I wish I could do that again.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you have the impression that you can be, it allows you to be yourself or you can be someone else when you party?
I
think myself, but more.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
More myself,
but like I'm let go. Like
Yeah.
I'm completely who I am.
Yeah. What's the recipe for a good party?
Good music, good people you feel safe with, no one's being
chatty.
Yeah, you need someone you can talk to, but then also like you can dance with, even if you don't know them that well. If you both know all the words of the same song, you're automatically like so close.
Could you describe the feeling of dancing in a crowd? How do you feel? What does the...
Well, it's like the feeling of ecstasy, isn't it? You know, you feel like you're in a Hollywood movie, you know, you feel like the camera's on you, you're dancing, everyone's watching.
Do you prepare yourself before you go out? Do you have kind of rituals?
That's half of the fun, is literally like getting up, getting ready, like drinking with everyone, getting excited, you know, you're singing along a little bit before you actually go out. That's half the fun.
Yeah.
Especially when I like to express myself by how I dress and how I look.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I can't do that like day to day so much.
Yeah, so it like releases the valve a little bit, I think, because it kind of everyone gets a bit pent up, and then we're able to kind of release that and then do it all over again. It kind of works for the economic system we're in as well.
So, yeah. Do you have the feeling that someday you will be maybe too old to party?
Never, you're never too old to party. Absolutely not.
I mean, it's probably very like, probably like very short-sighted to say no, but like I'd like to think no.
Yeah.
Who actually knows what the future will hold?
How do you imagine the parties in the future?
Reminiscing, really. So reminiscing.
Yeah. Like painful nostalgia that we desperately will try and stave off.
Yeah, I'd like to do it with dear life.
After waiting for the infos given through a recorded voicemail, we follow the indications to the location of the rave. Free parties are a modern expression of the deep human search for freedom that society tends to repress. It is a response to an ancient need of our species to experience extreme emotions outside good manners. Transgression has always had a big part in our festive behaviors, especially under the cover of night and under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Parties are times of research for intensity, to experience the dizziness of being alive, and sometimes to forget about ourselves. We can discharge all responsibilities and change identities, and for a moment, we enter another state of consciousness. All together into nothingness. Dionysus was the unrestrained god of wine and revelry, religious ecstasy, and creativity. He was the symbol of fertility, fruitfulness, and abandon. People believed that Dionysus inspired his worshippers in their drunken state, freeing them to think and act in new ways. Raves are like a temporary autonomous zone, a small ephemeral state where everything outside the bubble does not exist, and where we can connect to our most secretive needs and to the essential. It is a place where new forms of traditions are being born, and where we can create new values. Celebrations are milestones in life, allowing us to recall the past and our heritage, but also to set beliefs in time. Future is not what it used to be. Today it seems much more easier to imagine a dying world than a better world. But it's when utopia seems unimaginable that it's the most necessary. This utopia isn't a Neverland where we can escape, nor a universal system or a perfect future. It is something that holds us by the guts and that reminds us that we don't have to survive on the crumbs of our time. There is always somewhere further to go, always. There are as many destinations as there are imaginations.
The old man told me got to feel it all. We got to break the silence. Don't have to be alone. The red crow told me, do you hear the call? We have to give some moves, dance. Don't need to feel unknown. The time is melting like liquid gold. You're growing fatter. I can see your eyes glow. Don't think of tomorrow, just let it go. There's only the beat to follow. till the break of dawn, till the break of dawn, so we can be one. Celebrate your time, we're only here for a while. Celebrate your life, it will go beyond this night. Celebrate your time, we're only here for a while. Celebrate your life, it will go beyond this night. Celebrate your time, we're only here for a while. Celebrate your life, it will go beyond this night.
The world is filled with amazing traditions and festivities that deserve to be experienced. Through this voyage, we met so many kind-hearted people, all alike in their will to share their ways of celebrations. But what is next? Well, first we're going to celebrate the closure of this first season and thank you all for coming with us on that epic journey. And then we're gonna go further and try to find some more interesting places to visit. But this is also up to you. If you want to see us continuing our voyage, please consider joining our Patreon. By contributing, you will invest in our project and help us explore new places and go further in our research. It will also give some value to our work, which for now is 100% self-produced. And if you have ideas for future places and festivities that we should go and discover, please leave a comment. We will see you soon on the next chapter of this epic journey on the roads of celebration.